Hello, I'm Nancy with Compass Consulting, and today we're going to talk about change. Yeah, you heard it. Change, you've got this, right? We're going to talk about how you can take change and set a positive direction for yourself. The C word. Don't say it, don't say it. Oh, that's right. Change. Oh my goodness. Change is a word that can make you shudder, a word that can make your stomach hurt. Change is all around us. But then there's the other C word. Don't say it. Wait. Wait. That's right. COVID-19. A word that can make you fearful. A word that can make you sick or your family members ill. It's a serious C, and it's got a lot of change wrapped in it. So in our county and our city, we're very fortunate because our leaders have already put together a major campaign. Stay 6 feet apart, which is what everyone's been talking about, but that's a big change for us. So not only do we have to cover our face in public, but we have to stay 6 feet apart. And some things are still not open. So there's a lot of change. And there's a lot of signs everywhere, right? Change is ahead. Sudden change ahead. Oh, bright future. Oh, time for change. I wish change had road signs, right? It'd be a lot easier for us to understand what we have to do in order to make the change. So why make change? That's one of the big questions, right? Well, it might be time for a change. There might be some sort of change being forced on us from the outside world, either in our personal life or in our work life. So what I'm going to ask you to do here is I'm going to ask you to take a minute and pause and think about these two things. I want you to identify a change you recently made, something that you did in your life that was a change, okay? And then I want you to put down, why did you make that change? What got you into that change? All right, take a minute and write that up. Okay, so now I've had a minute to write down a couple of things. And some of the change right now may be because of COVID. You've lost your job, or your hours have been cut back or shortened, or your work is not open. There's a lot of things that are going on. I want to share with you one of the sayings from Henry David Thoreau. Things do not change, we change. All right, let's take your change challenge. All right, the one that you're facing. You're going to assess where you are right now. Where are you when you think about that change? What feelings do you have? Are you angry? Are you excited because maybe it's going to turn your life into a different direction? Figure out and assess where you are right now with that change. Okay? I want you to take a second and think about that. All right, so now you've kind of assessed where you are, and it's good to know because it's okay to be angry about change. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be excited, right? But you have to now determine where you want to be with that change. Thinking of you, what goals do you want to set, and where do you want to be with that goal of change? So think about that for a second. Okay, so now you thought about where you want to be with that change. So now let's look at and assess what will it take to get you there. What kind of resources do you have? Maybe the resources in your community. Maybe there's resources right in your own family or inside you. You always have a lot of resources inside yourself. So let's take a minute and look at that. Come up with your resources. While I was preparing for this, I was looking around for all different kinds of signs that have been made with change in them. And one of them that I found, I thought was very brilliant. It has change in the middle with all the arrows coming to the center. And that's right, because change has got to start with us. It's got to start within us. So I want to talk about what were some of your resources, tools that you came up with that you need to make change. So we're going to talk about a few, and you may have come up with some other ones. But one of the things you need to keep in mind is change takes time. You can't just immediately do it. Now you may be forced to do it quicker than you'd like to, and that's a whole nother conversation. But change does take time. All right? And you got to remember to be flexible, right? You got to go with it. Because as soon as one change has happened, another one comes on the scene. And so you're constantly making adjustments, right? And then one of the other ones is to be focused. And that's very important. If you don't stay focused on that change and stay the course, it's going to be harder for you to make that change because you're going to get pulled to the other directions, right? And the other thing is keeping yourself on the right direction, right? Use that compass. Get that compass to get you in the right direction that you need to be going. And one of the last ones, which is probably the most important, is willingness. You've got to be willing to change. So you got to really think about that one. Sometimes you got to work past that anger that you've got going and find a willingness to make the change. All right, now there's the information highway, right? And that's another thing you have to navigate when you're trying to make change. And some of the information that's coming at you is actually rumors, right? And you need to be careful that you're not getting a bunch of rumors and listening to those which then are pulling you away from staying on track for your change. You got to check into those things. Wait until they're fact and you know they're out there. And make sure you're checking your source that you're getting information from. Another thing that's difficult, right, is missing facts. So at a particular time you took in some of the facts, but you didn't get all the facts. And now that's going to affect your change. So make sure you're getting all the facts so you can make the right decisions. The other one is make sure you're finding the right source for the information, right? We've got the Google, we've got the internet, they're all over. They're everywhere. YouTube. Everything has got a different way of getting to sources. So just make sure if you're taking your information that it's a good source and it's something that will help you to make that change. So another thing that's hard about change is loss. We lose things, right? And sometimes the change, we lose a friend because they move away. That's a change. Or a family member dies and we have to deal with that loss. And at the same time, it brings about a change. So part of that is, too, that happens is time, right? We talked about this earlier. It takes time to make change. So you're going to have to learn some new steps to the process, a new way of doing it. So that's going to take away some of your time. But you're gaining it to accomplish and meet the challenge of the change. So now another thing you need to do is, right, set aside your own personal wisdom. Sometimes that's hard. That you think you've got it figured out and that this is how we should do it and we really don't need to change it. But it's good to step back for a minute, take a breath, and listen to the other people around you. That's important. The other thing is security, right? Well, we've always done it that way. We don't need to do it any differently. And a good example of that is a daughter is cooking a pot roast. And she's making the pot roast and she cuts off both ends of the roast and puts it in the pan and prepares dinner for her family. And then it's passed down to the next daughter. And the next daughter is cutting off the ends of the roast and putting the roast in the pan and putting it in the oven. And then as it's being passed down, another daughter stops to ask why. Why do you cut off the ends of the roast? Well, the mother doesn't know. the mother looks to her mother, who looks to her great-grandmother. And maybe we have to go all the way back to your great-great-grandmother. But the reason she did it was it didn't fit in the pan she owned. So she had to cut off the pot roast to fit in the pan to cook it. But we continue with that because no one asked why they did it when now I've got a pan that the pot roast fits in. So it's always good to ask why. And that might help us to make some changes in the right direction. Another thing is to shift from yourself, right? You don't want to always be worried about the change and how it's affecting you. Think about and shift to the other people that are in your lives. That should make the change a little bit easier. Another big one, and it's probably the most difficult, is that we're afraid we're going to lose some power. If I give this up and I take this change on, I'm not going to have the same amount of power that I had before. I'm going to give up some of my power. And I'm going to tell you that usually what happens is that if you really do make the change, you actually get more power when you make that change. Well, what would you gain from change? What's in it for me? Right? That's what we're always looking to. So one of the things that's going to come out of this is that if you really work on this change, you're going to learn how to negotiate change. Because if you can get good at that, it's going to cause a lot less stress in your life. And if you can stop for a minute and listen to some of those around you and take in some of that, it might be easier to make the change. Step back, take some time to reflect, and then you can move forward with the change. And one of Disney's movies, Inside Out, I love Joy. Joy is filled with everything. And one of the things she talks about, I like her quote is, you can focus on what's going wrong, or there's always a way to turn things around. And that's what we need to do, right? We need to look at things and say, there's always a way to turn things around, to face that challenge right square on and make the change. Well, anyone who's seen some of the other videos we've made or knows me, knows that I like sayings. And this next one is from Maya Angelou, who I absolutely adore. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. And I think that's really important for all of us. We have to just change our attitude and keep it moving. Yep. So change in you. So I'd like you to do this next activity. And you're going to say, oh, what? Are we in kindergarten? But actually, this will help you a lot. So you're going to take a piece of paper, and on the piece of paper, you're going to put your hand down, and you're going to trace it. And trace it so that you can have space in between the phalanges, the fingers. All right? So take a minute to do that, and then we're going to talk about what you need to do next. In the center of your hand, your palm, you're going to put your change challenge. Actually name it. Because again, we can't work on it if we can't name it. So you got to put it right in there. And then on each of your phalanges, you're going to write what you're going to do to address getting to this change, to making this change. So on each of your fingers, you're going to put an item that says this is what you're going to work on to get to this change. So now you've made a promise to yourself. That's what you've done. You put your hand up and you made a promise. So now you're going to hang that up somewhere where you'll see it to inspire you, to remember it throughout the day. Think about it. So you may have to make a couple of them, right? And some of you may get very creative. You may actually draw some artwork with it and make it stand out and be beautiful. But you don't need to do that if you don't like art. It's not a problem. So put it somewhere where you can see it. Take notice of it. It could be maybe in your bedroom when you're getting dressed in the morning. Or maybe it has to be somewhere attached to your car so you see it in the morning at the dashboard so you can remember what you're going to work on. So you're going to hang it up and be inspired by the change you're going to make. Change. You've got this. So get out there and face it head on. And we're Compass Consulting, so let us design a workshop for you specifically. You can drop us an email and let us know a topic that you'd be interested in. So you can get us at compass.consulting.pr@gmail.com. And you can see we've got our logo right here. My younger daughter has actually created it, and she does logos with noise, and you can get her at www.noyscreatives.com. And we'll see you soon. Get out there and make that change happen. And you know what? I know you can do it.